one thing to happen of the two things.
Right.
Because chances are, you know, giving them the option is just worse than not.
Yep, and he saves on 1 life this way. Shocks for the steam vents, but would have taken 3 off the Wanderer. On his turn, he'll cycle a Hieroglyphic Illumination. Celestial Colonnades the second land. We're back to Zhou, and here is Phantasmal Image, copying the Supreme Phantom. No land drop, but it does connect for 2, putting Nikolich to 15.
Yeah, Phantasmal Image is not particularly good in this matchup unless it's copying a Drogskol Captain. Drogskol Captain giving hexproof to all other spirits, but when the Phantasmal Image copies it, it is also a spirit and it protects it. There was a similar trick back when Phantasmal Image was in Standard involving Lord of the Unreal because it checked itself, which was pretty sweet.
Lord of the Unreal was very bad in the Illusion's Mirror.
No, it wasn't. It was great.
It checks your opponents.
Yeah.
That's a pretty dated reference. Anyway, Glacial Fortress was the third land for Nikolich. He had Electrolyze. That took care of the Phantasmal Image pretty easily, as you mentioned. For Zhou, still no third land drop. He does have a second Mausoleum Wanderer, but was only able to connect for 1 with his Phantom. Yeah, Nikolich had 14.
This Snapcaster Mage going to be rebuying the Lightning Bolt. The body on Snapcaster Mage doesn't play all that well in this matchup, so effectively just a 3-mana Lightning Bolt since most of Zhao's creatures have flying.
Right. It will possibly be able to connect for more damage than the Supreme Phantom the way things are going, as just in another attack for 1 and continues to miss the third land on Zhou's side.
Yeah, these Lord effects like Supreme Phantom, Drogskol Captain, not nearly as powerful when you have no other spirits on the battlefield.
Nikolich shows as a Snapcaster Mage. He's going to bump Zhou down to 15, and he has made every land drop. There was Sacred Foundry and now a Sulphur Falls, so he's fully online, and here is Teferi, Hero of Dominaria.
Yeah, and he is going to be the hero of this game if he resolves, which it looks like he's going to. And now Nikolich has a choice. He can minus and get absolutely destroyed by a Rattle Chains, or he can plus and play it super safe.
No fear.
That's fine.
There's Rattle
Chains is losing a lot of playability in these decks. A lot of people are moving away from it in favor of Reflector Mage to help out in creature-based matchups.
Yep, and that worked. There was no Rattle Chains, and for Zhou, just Noble Hierarch on the following turn. We're back to Nikolich, and he has plussed his Teferi. Here's another Snapcaster Mage. That's an Electrolyze. Noble Hierarch down. Zhou to 14. Pretty soon you got to expect an attack for 2 down to 12. Nikolich firmly in the driver's seat.
Yeah, still has a land drop to play for the turn. Looks like he's going to untap 2 with Teferi with Logic not on backup. So this game is basically over.
Hallowed Fountain tap for turn, untap 2 lands for Teferi, and Zhou has seen enough. We're going to game 2.
Yeah, very quick one here for the Jeskai Control player. Nikolich knows his way around a Jeskai Control deck, even though it doesn't usually win super fast. He was effectively in the driver's seat throughout the entire game thanks to Zhao missing on some land drops and was able to close the game quite quickly, and Zhao picked him up knowing that he could not win.
Yeah, very significant mana woes, obviously never hitting the third land drop, and even just having that colorless mana source can be a pretty serious detriment to the Spirit stack.
Yeah, the Moorland Haunt is very good in this matchup normally, but in that spot where you're light on lands and you don't have enough mana to physically cast the cards in your hand, a mana sink on a land that Tazza calls mana ain't it.
Right. We'll see if Zhou can get some help in the sideboard. He has registered today 2 Thalia, Guardian of Thraben, a Worship, 3 Rest in Peace, 3 Stony Silence. I've been told that this is not the correct sideboard.
Nice.
We'll figure that out in a minute. I figure some of these cards are here. Can't be wrong by much, right? I bet Nikolich's is right, though.
2 Surgical Extraction, 2 Celestial Purge. I'm comparing 2 Dispel. Now it's right. Okay.
All right, let's go back. So everything I said, we were correct to that point.
It's fine.
Got the Stonies, the Rest in Peace, the Thalias, the Worship. We have 1 Unified Will, a Geist of Saint Traft, 2 Knight of Autumn, a Damping Sphere, and a Dromoka's Command.
All right, so in this matchup, the Bant Spirit stack needs to basically put up a little bit of disruption and get a bit of the removal out of its deck. You don't really want Reflector Mage. You don't really want Path to Exile, anything of that nature. You want to instead just replace those with things like Thalia, Guard of Thraben, the Unified Will, the Geist of Saint Traft, and potentially some Knights of Autumn to take care of something like Search for Ascanta. But also it can just be a 4/3 for 3 mana, and that's not so bad.
On Ben Nikolich's side, we have 2 Surgical Extraction, 2 Celestial Purge, 2 Dispel, a Vendilion Click, a Negate, an Abrade, a Baneslayer Angel, a Lyra Dawnbringer, an Engineered Explosives, a Ceremonious Rejection, a Spell Queller, and a Geist of St. Traft. A lot of one-ofs in this sideboard.
Yeah, but you'll notice that a lot of these one-ofs are similar in nature, like Baneslayer Angel, Lyra Dawnbringer. These cards are effectively the same. But it is better to play one of each because a Lyra Dawnbringer can pump a Baneslayer Angel.
Synergy.
But you don't want to play 2 Lyra Dawnbringer because of the legendary status.
Yes.
We see the 2 Dispel and Negate. Those come in a lot of matchups, act as counter spells and whatnot. But you see this a lot with blue decks that can filter through their deck quite a bit. That allows them to have a bit more flexibility and cards that are a little bit better in some matchups where they'll come in, as opposed to cards where they're not quite good enough in some matchups, can stay in the sideboard and have a higher impact in specific matchups. As for this one in particular, I would expect Luke Purcell to bring in 2 copies of Dispel, effectively just to counter Collected Company for 1 mana. It is the Bant Spirit's best card, and after sideboard there might be some weird thing like Unified Will or Negate or something like that that he needs to try to win a fight through.
Sure.
I like the Vendilion Click as a flying blocker. I like the Abrade as just a removal spell. Whenever your opponent is going to be cutting down on their removal, I like the Baneslayer and Lyra Dawnbringer, plus they both fly, which is great. And Engineered Explosives can be good, but the nature of Bant Spirits is to chain up 1, 2, 3, and sometimes Engineered Explosives only going to kill one thing, and that's not good enough. So it's interesting to see there. And then again, Spell Queller is pretty good when your opponent sides up most of the removal, so I'm curious to see if that comes in.
Yeah, Engineered Explosives also has some awkward interaction with Spell Queller. You don't want it to get stuck under that one. It's practically a hard counter.
Yeah, for sure. Most X spells not very good against the card Spell Queller. Kicker spells, on the other hand, quite good being cast off of Spell Queller, which is interesting.
Yeah, I like the interaction with Flashback, where you just get the card back.
Yeah. It just goes back to the graveyard and you get to cast it for free. That's nice.
Yeah, we're underway. So Zhou's going to start us off with Basic Island, Ether Vial, just a Flooded Strand again for Nikolich.
You never like seeing that from the Spirit side, starting off with 2 basics of your 3. Just because the Jeskai control deck has so many cards like Path to Exile, sometimes even Settle the Wreckage, Field of Ruin, Ghost Quarter. These cards fetch up basic lands, and if you just don't have any left in your deck, those cards become a lot better.
Second turn, Basic Plains, Mausoleum Wanderer. Nikolich is going to crack the Flooded Strand for a Steam Vents, Lightning Bolt that one down. He's at 17. On his second turn, he has Basic Plains and Search for Azcanta.
Yeah, and this is one of the reasons for the Bant Spirits why I suggested bringing in the Knight of Autumn, specifically because Search for Azcanta is so powerful.
End step. Zhou was able to vial in Noble Hierarch on his turn. Horizon Canopy's the land, and the cast is Geist of St. Traft. That's a big one.
Yeah, that's a powerful one. With the shields down from the Jeskai control side, Nikolich desperately needs to find something like Supreme Verdict, Anger of the Gods, anything that doesn't say target.
Zhou's also cranked that vial to 2. There could be a looming selfless spirit to protect the Geist. This is becoming a very precarious situation.
Oh yeah, the 1-2 punch of Geist of St. Traft plus Selfless Spirit or some way to prevent the damage is a big deal.
Nikolich will use his Search for Azcanta to put a Lightning Helix in the graveyard. Plays Basic Island as land for turn. Here's Snapcaster Mage, going to Lightning Bolt down the Noble Hierarch.
Looks like Zhou chose to leave some number of Path to Exile in his deck. I was going to use that to take care of the Snapcaster Mage so that Geist of St. Traft can attack unfettered.
Yeah, presumably those are largely in for the Lyra Dawmbringers, but clearing that Snapcaster Mage to get this Geist in, that's at least some kind of win.
No, I agree. It's also not that bad against something like Celestial Colonnade because the land replaces itself.
Sure.
So, I mean, as a humans pilot, I actually cut Reflector Mage and bring in Dismember in this matchup because it's an instant speed answer to things like Celestial Colonnade, whereas Reflector Mage is not. But Path to Exile playing a similar role, and you're usually only casting it when your opponent has a bunch of lands. This is the one rare case where targeting a Snapcaster Mage is correct.
Yep. Nikolich deck not shy on basic lands, did find a second island. For Zhou, the vial was up to 3. Geist and Angel connected. Nikolich is at 11. Search for Azcanta trigger. Looked like a Steam Vents was flipped over there for Nikolich. Little ways off of transforming, just 3 cards in the graveyard.
Even though light on lands Zhou chooses to crack that Horizon Canopy, looking for something else to put onto the battlefield.
And there was a miss on a land drop there for Nikolich. He passed back. Zhou sacrifices the canopy, and it looks like upkeep. Nikolich is using this cryptic command. I imagine tapping the Geist of St. Traft and drawing a card. Ooh, and here is Unified Will for Zhou.
Yeah, that one out of the sideboard playing a huge role in this spot, pumping in for 6 damage and preventing Nikolich from either drawing the card or targeting the Ether Vial. I'm not sure which it was.
Yeah, no land drop there for Zhou, but 6 from the Geist. Nikolich down to 5. Trigger on search. This time he does keep a land. It's a Glacial Fortress, and there's Baneslayer Angel.
Yeah, and the Path to Exile from Zhou, he shows it, and Benjamin Nikolich sees the writing on the wall and picks him up.
Yep. Those 2 Path to Exiles made that Snapcaster Mage getting path line pretty easy on Zhou's side, and able to clean up really quickly with that Geist of St. Traft, and we're going to game 3.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what Geist of St. Traft does out of the sideboard against decks like Jeskai Control, other strategies like Jund or Abzan that have a bunch of spot removal. Geist of St. Traft really cleans them up, makes them get stuck with a lot of these spells in hand that can't really effectively deal with it. And all it takes is 1 or 2 removal spells to clear out blockers, and then the Geist of St. Traft just rolls all the way through.
Yeah, and this match is going to game 3, and nobody else on Nikolich's team has finished a game.
Yeah, it's not surprising. The Bant Spirits versus Jeskai Control matchup can go long if the Bant Spirits player just kind of floods out, puts up like 1 or 2 creatures, but one of them gets killed. You're plinking along with your Supreme Phantom. The only reason that Nikolich was able to close game 1 so quickly was because he drew it to Teferi.
Right.
The minus made the Supreme Phantom basically a dead draw later on. He also drew an Electrolyze super early to take care of a Phantasmal Image, which was a huge deal, and multiple Snapcaster Mages to continue that pressure on the creature suite from Zhou.
Things are all tied up now, though, for Ben Nikolich. He's going to try to win this match for his team, but he is a player very capable of picking up wins. Ben Nikolich, very accomplished here on the SCG Tour. Opens played 16, top 8's 4. 25% conversion on top 8s with the win. That's pretty impressive stuff.
Yeah, that's better than me.
Certainly better than me.
Wait, is it better than me? I have 32. I've had to have played. Wait, have I played 120 opens?
Jeez, and that's just 2018. Ooh. What a year.
Yeah, that is a good year for him. Ben Nikolich is actually one of the best Jeskai players I've ever watched play the deck. Brad Nelson regularly chooses to play Jeskai Control in Modern and will always come to Nikolich for help. And Nikolich, a very nice person, will help him.
Yeah, 21-year-old from Fairfax, Virginia. Very young to have this resume. You look all-time. He does have 8 top 8s and an invitational top 8 as well. Would still like to win one of those, but for this age, he's doing very well for himself.
Yeah, and of course, a member of Team Lotus Box, up-and-coming team here on the SCG Tour, really looking to make a name for themselves here in 2019 and putting a few, if not all of their members, into the Players' Championship at the end of the year.
That'd be something. Student at George Mason University studying cybersecurity engineering. That sounds complicated.
He's a cop. He's fired. I am no longer a fan. Just
Yikes.
Kidding. Just kidding.
That took a turn. That's really nice guy, but he's canceled.
That's okay. It's cybersecurity. That's fine.
You gotta keep data safe, man.
That's true.
Cybersecurity is scary stuff.
I want my data safe.
Yeah.
All right.
Back on board. Back on the Nikolich train.
Love him. What a great guy.
Players looking at their opening 7s here. And Nikolich on the play this time. He'll lead on Hallowed Fountain tapped. Botanical Sanctum and Noble Hierarch for Zhou.
Yeah, Noble Hierarch not at its best in this matchup, but it is part of the Bant Spirits mana base, so not really something I would be looking to side out, as your starts that open up with any 1-mana card are usually better than starts that open without it.
Yep. Sulphur Falls and Lightning Helix takes down the Noble Hierarch on Nikolich's side, and Zhou at least has mana online so far. Basic Plains and Thalia as a turn 2 play. This is a solid start.
Something interesting to note, I actually saw a copy of Ether Vial in Zhou's hand. It's possible he had a start of Noble Hierarch into Geist of St. Traft and actually chose to lead with Noble Hierarch over the Ether Vial in order to play a turn earlier.
Yeah, you do force Nikolich to have a small subset of cards there, but he did. And it looks like just third land for both players, Hallowed Fountain and another Botanical Sanctum. And connect for 2. Nikolich down to 21 is all we have going on turn 3.
All right.
Ooh,
this is an old one.
Got a fun one showing up.
That is a Nebelgast Herald.
That was flashed in end step, but Nikolich was at the ready. Made his 4th land drop. He's got that basic island and Electrolyze. Cleans up the battlefield.
And Nebelgast Herald was a limited all-star, but it does have 1 toughness and falls to Electrolyze, just like they all do.
Misty Rainforest is the 4th land for Zhou. Sacrifices that immediately. Gotta wonder if there's a collected company hanging out in the hand.
Oh, I would guess so here. Usually when you're main phasing your 4th mana source against a tapped-out Jeskai control opponent, casting Collected Company is all you want to do. It's possible you could go double 2-drop.
Yeah.
I doubt it.
Or Geist of St. Traft, Ether Vial. But here's Hallowed Fountain untapped. He's at 17. We'll find out sooner than later.
All right, double 2-drop. A second copy of Thalia, Guardian of Thraben means that Electrolyze wasn't that backbreaking, as that legendary status was keeping it locked down in hand. But it's always tough to see 2 of your creatures die to a single Electrolyze. It's so backbreaking.
Yeah, they don't print a lot of cards that are so easily a 3-for-1. But just Thalia, Selfless Spirit, Nikolich aside, plays a Celestial Colonnade. Find out if he has another Electrolyze. That would be a nice swing for him. It's a Path to Exile. Thinking about what to target. Once you hit your 5th land drop, the Thalia matters a bit less, but that is going to be the target.
Yeah. The extra land here, this is late enough in the game where I don't think that the Bant Spirits player will be able to utilize this excess mana, especially because the Thalia is hitting the bin, which means you don't need that 5th mana for a potential Collected Company.
Zhou goes and finds the basic island. Back on his side now. Selfless Spirit coming across. Nikolich finally below 20, falling to 19.
That's pretty interesting. This Selfless Spirit, normally when combined with something like Spell Queller, even Geist of St. Traft to protect, is fairly troublesome for decks like Jeskai Control, but Benjamin opting to kill the Thalia means that his hand is probably flush with spot removal and not sweeper effects.
And it looks like Zhou's hand is flush with mana and not action, as Flooded Strand and Ether Vial were the plays for the turn.
And it looks like he is out of basic lands, which he doesn't have a forest on the battlefield, so I'm guessing his last card is that forest.
Yikes. Yeah, there was a Path to Exile by Nikolich, and Zhou just sacrificed the Selfless Spirit in response. And then on Nikolich's side, no land drop, so his hand's just gas, you gotta figure.
What if Zhou made the play of not getting the forest to throw Nikolich off the scent that he actually had a good flash card in hand? That's something to think about.
That is. Do you think that's the case?
No. Because I would always get that land out of my deck. Oh,
there's the forest.
No.
Spoils the mystery.
He probably drew it for turn. Secret Master.
Drawing it for turn would be like a pretty big punishment for that bluff.
Lear Dawnbringer here from Nikolich. Unless Zhao is able to draw a string of really powerful cards here, I think Lear's going to lock it up.
That's not very powerful. Just 2 lands left over, and Ben Nikolich is going to win this match 2-1 for his team.
Showing that Dispel off. Still had all these. Nice Collected Company, bro. Also, I called it. You know, just want to point that out.
What'd
that
you
he was
call?
going to bring in Dispel.
Yeah.
Even though it's only got 1 target.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense.
Well, Collected Company is the card that matters the most in the matchup from both sides of things. If Bant Spirits is able to fire off a Collected Company and resolve it at any point, that changes the entire dynamic of the game because Nikolich's strategy is so involved with trying to 1-for-1.
Yep. There are some decks that are just named after a singular card, and in fact, a lot of those decks are Collected Company decks. Bant Spirits doesn't quite check that box, but it's still the highest ceiling card in the deck. Also, we saw some pretty relevant Path to Exiles in Game 2.
Oh, absolutely. The Geist of St. Traft early on, backed up by double Path to Exile, cleared a Snapcaster Mage that was going to block, cleared a Lear Dawnbringer that was going to block and potentially take over the game. You know, I expected him to side out the Path to Exiles because they're not usually that good. But if the entire game plan of the Jeskai Control play after sideboard is just these big angels, leaving in 2 or 3 Path to Exile is okay. I mean, you have a couple of weak cards in the matchup. You know, your creatures, I don't know. Yeah, you have a couple weak cards that you can bring out. We'll just say that.
Yeah. But we still have another Jeskai v Spirits match going on. I assume mostly cosmetic differences in the list. The Jeskai lists are probably actually further apart. to mention this team has that spell snare scuffle.
Yeah. Looks like we're going to take a look at Luke Purcell versus Zhou and see how that matchup is playing out, and that is the other Bant Spears versus Jeskai matchup. Let's head on down to the match and see where we're at, and try to see if Luke Purcell's team can take down this match. They're already up 1. Benjamin Nikolich taking down his match, and pretty
I'd like to see some more back and forth.
I would like to see some back and forth. Personally, I'm under the impression that the Bant Spears deck is not that good against Jeskai control. You know, a lot of people are under the impression that it's a fine matchup because things like Selfless Spirit protects you from Supreme Verdict, but my experience is the complete opposite.
Well, it's, we cut down to the game here. It certainly looks like Jeskai is in the driver's seat. 4 lands and a Search for Escanta against 2 lands and a graveyard full of creatures.
Yeah, only 2 lands is the big part of the story here. Looks like he missed his 3rd land drop last turn here on the draw. And Etherval on turn 4, probably not going to get it done.
Yeah, always up a game, though.
Yep, always have game 3 to come back in.
Search for his counter trigger there for Purcell. He's going to keep that card, miss his land drop. Probably a pretty stocked hand.
Yeah, whenever a Jeskai player misses their 5th land drop, I am terrified. Unless they have mulligan to 3.
Ether Vials to 1, no main phase action for Yao, and this is going to force a Vendilion Click end step from Purcell. Yao responds with Rattle Chains, which must mean that's one of the better cards in the hand.
It's probably the only castable, and it looks like Yao's hand is just full of 3 mana cards. Looks like
we have 2 Droxel Captains, a Spell Queller, and a Collected Company.
That's what it looks like to me, sir. And I am under the impression that Purcell is going to leave him with all 4 of those since none are castable next turn without a land.
Yeah, it's all fairly interchangeable, and if you do shove the Company, for example, you might draw him into a land.
Yeah, and that just unlocks the rest of his spells.
Looks like Purcell is happy with another one off that Search for Escanta.
Yeah, you never want to see the second Search for Escanta when you have the first one on the battlefield. Luckily, it protects itself in that manner pretty well.
Lightning Bolt and Rattle Chains. Here comes Vendilion Click. Yeah, out of 14.
Yeah. I believe Purcell has the ability to transform Search for Escanta into the Sunken Ruin next turn if he so chooses to put that top card into the graveyard or plays a card from hand.
Ether Vial to 2 on Yao's side. Flooded Strand is the land for turn, so we can start unlocking his hand a little bit. Somewhat shy because the Vial's not on 3 just yet, but could either cast a Captain, leave up a Spell Queller.
I'm not a huge fan of leaving up Spell Queller in any spot where you don't already have pressure on your opponent. Basically, you just never have to bite if you're Purcell in this scenario, and you just keep attacking with the Vendilion Click. And since your hand operates mostly at instant speed and your deck operates mostly at instant speed, you're under no rush to actually do anything at all until your opponent bites.
Yeah, and I do like leaving up the Droxel Captain until you get the Vial to 3, so your hand is a bit trickier, and that's what Yao decides to do. On Purcell's side, he's going to put an island in the graveyard off of his Search for Escanta, transform that into Escanta the Sunken Ruin, come across for 3 with the Click, and then Yao's going to crack that Flooded Strand. He's down to 10.
Yeah, I actually kind of like the slow play here from Yao. Like you said, it's very important that he gets both Droxel Captains onto the battlefield and can protect them in some way to force Purcell to have basically double spell in a weird spot.
Temple Garden is found tapped for Yao. Ether Vial goes up to 3. Now let's see what that hand can do. Draws another land, Horizon Canopy for turn, so now he's also representing that Collected Company. Yeah, and this might be a really good spot for him to go end of turn Collected Company, depending on what Purcell does. Maybe EOT Vial in something, maybe even not. There's a Snapcaster Mage end step for Purcell. Yao's going to respond with Collected Company, and there is a Dispel from Purcell. Ether Vial activation. Here's Spell Queller that's going to grab the Dispel, but there's Path to Exile after that trigger resolves on Purcell's side. Yeah, and this is all at the end of Yao's turn. And it looks like he's going to flash back the Lightning Bolt and then show another Lightning Bolt in hand, and that's going to send us to Game 3. Purcell
taking that one down.
Yep. Vendilion click, bolt, bolt. That's 9. The canopy knocked him from 10. And going to a decider. If Purcell can win this one, or if Negri can win the second game on the back table, that will be a match win for Team Jeskai.
Yeah, this Jeskai Control v Band Spirits matchup looks like, well, never mind. The end. All right. All right. Looks like Negri just won his match in the Jeskai v Ironworks matchup. No real surprise there. Jeskai Control is generally favorable in the Ironworks matchup. All right. We're going to come back to the booth here. We have a bit of a special feature. We haven't gotten to do it yet. We've been setting it up a lot, where one of us of the 4 commentators, we're over there